I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
And this is...
Admiral Angry Plastic Bath.
Angry Plastic... Is that the name of it? Plastic Bath?
That's a very weird name.
Plastic Bath by the band Admiral Angry. If you, dear listener, would like your
is this
song...
For big homie somebody? Who's
It's
this for?
Oh, yeah. This is for my big homie or little homie.
LT? LJ? JL?
JL. I'll say Jaden. Brought to you by Jaden.
Oh.
If you, dear listener, would like your song reviewed, if you want to be like Jaden, there's multiple ways to get your song done, dear listener. My favorite is the community option. $1 to get you in their Patreon. And you will then be picked up by an alliance leader. You pull your points together, and then that helps determine what songs we do. Or you could do the filthy capitalist option because my wife Sori is a filthy capitalist.
No, I just know what I want, and I want what I want. The way that works is you pay $125 either on Patreon or PayPal, either one.
Vin and Sori merch at gmail.com.
And yep, links are in the description. And from there, you send me the link to the song that you want done, and I add you to our short list, and then your song gets reacted to by us.
There you are. You do that 3 times, you get knocked down at the $75 rate, and that's what the big homie has done. I think he's one more, and he's at the $75 rate.
For all perpetuity.
For all perpetuity. So congrats to the homie for that. Having said that, let's get to it. Admiral Angry. The name of the song is Plastic Bath. Let's go. that doom metal? Is that doom? I don't know. It sounds kind of doomy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That was like a very distorted, down-tuned, and they just rode that shit for 6 minutes. You know, like, it's really interesting because we have the lyrics in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the audience doesn't have the lyrics in front of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I just think that there's a difference in the experience of what happens.
If you know what they're saying.
If you know what the artist is saying.
Oh, I agree.
Versus,
because it was like, you were kind of going with him.
Right.
You're kind of rooting for him, too.
Exactly. Especially in metal.
Yeah.
I just think in metal, it just, especially these kinds of extreme forms of metal where you're like, you can't hear what the person is saying. There's something that happens when you know what the person is saying.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you couldn't hear what it was saying because I was following the lyrics so closely.
Well, no, everybody could hear, but as far as like being able to distinguish, because it just sounds like.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was indistinguishable because I had the lyrics and I was sucked into where he was at and like thinking with him and feeling with him that I didn't realize that it was indistinguishable.
Yeah. So somebody asked me in the channel like before we shot this video. They were like, "What's the difference between noise and music?" I think that's actually a pretty insightful question, and my answer was basically something that has a pattern to it. So, you know, if it's just and that's it, that's just noise.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of artists there where like stuff sounds like it's noise, like to the untrained ear, but there's actual patterns, chord progressions, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. I think it functions that way lyrically as well and sonically, and especially when you're talking about like the vocals, right? So he's saying, "Fuck it, I forgot to wake up. Don't give a shit. Close your mouth. Go get fucked. I only care just to not. So guess what? I stopped. Don't try to wake up long enough to give a fuck." Brilliant opening.
Yeah.
This guy.
Feel it with him.
You're right. I was kind of rooting for him. It was kind of like a Holden Caulfield kind of energy as far as like, you know.
I think this is the first time I've ever done that in a song.
A disaffected young man inspiring down a little bit. Really? The first time you've.
Like, because usually I'll either like feel like the person or think of someone who feels like them. But I'm pretty sure this is the first time that I've listened to a song and I felt for the artist and was rooting for the artist.
Right.
I don't think I've never said that before, right?
Yeah. No. But I forgot to wake up. Don't give a shit. Close your mouth. Go get fucked. I only care just to not. Brilliant. I only care just to not. Mm-hmm. I like people who could, because a lot of us are saying the same things. You know, like.
Tricky little way to say the same thing as everybody else.
Right. I was listening. I was watching Kobe Bryant break down a basketball game, and he said, "We're all doing the same plays. Everybody's doing the same thing. It's just a matter of who can execute it better than the other person." And it's the same thing with fighting. Like, none of these guys are doing something that nobody's ever seen before. It's the packaging. Like,
right.
Oh, this guy landed a roundhouse, but he hit the roundhouse in a 3-hit combo that is a combination of things that you normally don't see. You normally don't see combos that start out with a middle strike and end with a high roundhouse. You generally don't see that. So I love what this guy did lyrically. I only care just to not, which is a standard metal line. I don't care about anything, right? I don't give a fuck or whatever. Yeah. But he's singing in a cool. I only care just to not. So guess what? I stop. And then he says, "I forgot to wake up," which is really interesting considering you're on all of your simulation hologram and stuff. So I forgot to wake up means that all of what he's talking about is a dream, essentially. Because he's not awake when he's saying.
Yeah, that's not how I got that.
What did you get out of it?
I just thought it was like, you forgot to wake up and then like it just starts your day. You know, like you're supposed to be up and then it like starts your whole day off wrong and then he's saying, "Don't give a shit, put him out." Like anything that he goes up to do, it's just ends in disaster. I only care enough just to not, like, it's just.
Well, he says, "I forgot to wake." So how did you interpret "I forgot to wake up"?
I forgot to wake up. Like he forgot to wake up and get out of bed when he was
Oh,
supposed to.
it could be very simple as
it just
he didn't get to work on time.
Yeah. And then everything just like the entire day was just wrecked.
Mutter me something. I don't know. Mutter me nothing, for fuck's sake. Nothing anybody says anything means anything to this kid.
Yeah, I think it was really with this line, when it went into this verse, I guess, where I really was like, I better watch out. Kind of got me because, like, that to me is like a you know, like that cry to be seen, to be known.
Yeah.
And like, that's in all of us, and sometimes we'll put it on somebody else, like that somebody else should see us, somebody else should know us and know us well. And we put it in relationships, and overly strained relationships, because you're looking for them to see you in a way that you want them to see deep and know who you are, where there's not, you know, there's not a lot of, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, you want to be known. And I think that's, I believe that God put that in us so that way we would keep searching until we'd find him. Because he's the only one that really knows us. So that was kind of what came into my mind when I hit this point, was, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's really interesting when you consider the current culture where you know, I was listening to Head talk about Korn were the last really big rock stars. And what he was saying was, after Korn's big, you know, whatever, then you had Napster, you had all these file streaming services, and then you had YouTube, and now you got SoundCloud. So like, I used to have to wait until the song came on K-Rock, and I didn't know when the song was going to come on. So you had to have the radio on the whole time, because you never knew. Like, if they had like the daily countdown, you could kind of you would know. And sometimes if the song wasn't the number one song in the daily countdown, they would cut it because they had commercials, so they only played the song for like half of it. Or you'd have to wait till MTV had it. Now, the minute you want to hear a song, before whole albums have been leaked. You know, before they actually that happened to a Korn record. One of the Korn records got released like mega early. So he was saying, so they were like the last really, really, really big rock stars, where it was like they were so rare and scarce that you couldn't get to them unless, you know, it was a concert or MTV or radio. Now, like, and the accessibility is so crazy. You can, like, it still boggles my mind. Like, we're working on a song, and I'm like, yo, Head, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you should do this with distortion. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks, bro. Like, what?
Yes, yeah, but you know what? There's like some positives and negatives to that. Because remember when we went to that show and there was like everybody was on their phones in between, and like the curtain dropped and there was no hype, and like I feel like part of that is because the mystery of who those people are, like they're only presenting what they present out to the crowd. But then when you see like social media being what it is, you get to kind of see behind the scenes, and then I think that it takes them down from their godlike status and makes them a human being.
Well, you see Nurgle on Instagram.
Yeah.
And like sometimes he's completely out of character. He's dressed up he's very fashionable. He's extremely fashionable. Mm-hmm. And so like, yeah, it kind of demystifies celebrity. But on the other side, for regular people like us, now you have all these weird mini celebrities.
Right.
You know, like people who are not who haven't, like, you know, whatever. And so now it's like a weird situation where I remember like being in a show and people were like, oh, hey, you guys, blah, blah, blah. And the fucking band guy was right there, like 5 feet away from us. Mm-hmm. And the person's like talking to us. And I was like, yo, the guy from blah, blah, blah band is right there. It was just really weird, you know, type of situation. And you don't know that people are looking at you like that because you're just a regular, you just feel like a, you know, you are a, but so like now it's like, it's even more this weird thing where everybody wants to be noticed. And, you know, Gary Vee talks about like what he goes for is attention. And, you know, that's his whole philosophy, is that you can monetize attention. And so when I heard that talk from him, I'm like, oh.
That's really interesting.
So that's why when a Ben Shapiro or whoever does something, I go, I respect the hustle. I respect the hell out of that hustle because he's found a way to monetize attention. Mm-hmm. And so, but my point is now you get a lot of young people now who if they don't hit on Instagram, if they don't hit on Twitter, if people don't like their thing, then that is a marker of their self-esteem. Because they put
bigger than their school.
They put a post out on Facebook and not a lot of people like it. Yeah. They get upset. You know, they put a post on Instagram, not a lot of people like it. They get upset, and it really has an emotional toll on them. And I don't think that we've caught up psychologically to help these people, because now it's like the popularity contest, that the little skirmishes that you got in school.
That's what I'm saying.
It's completely metastasized into something.
Well, I think before, if it didn't go well at school, you could say, well, you know, the world is bigger than my school, blah, blah, blah. But when you have stuff on social media, it's out there for everybody. So then it's like, oh my gosh, the world doesn't like me, even though that's not really...
It's not true.
It's not true because the whole world doesn't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's hard to even get your name out there, so...
Yeah, but... and the thing is... Okay, so like we do this, right? We do this for a living, and somebody said, you know, I made an opinion about a certain rapper and his constituents, and they're like, look at the like to dislike ratio. And I was looking at the comment and I was confused, because I was like, well, what is that? Because you know how I am. Yeah. I'm like, here are the facts, blah blah blah. Here's the documentation, blah blah blah. I quoted Harvard, blah blah blah. And the person's like, look at the like to dislike ratio. And I like, for a minute, I was like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand what does he do with my argument? So I'm like going through and like, I'm like, what is he? And I'm like, oh, he's saying because the dislike ratio is higher than the like ratio, that means something. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, like, but being a person, like, we're not 14, 15 years old. So we understand that sometimes you're going to take a position that's not necessarily popular. You also understand that sometimes you take a position that's popular in some circles and not in other circles. And everybody that does what we do for a living knows how to manipulate those numbers. Like, we all know how to do it. Anybody with over 100,000 subs knows exactly what they're doing. They know how to do it. So it was a really crazy moment for me, because I'm like, okay, you could be in the face of all these facts, and the like to dislike ratio to this guy was the be all end all. And I just think that that's a massively dangerous way to look at the world, and dangerous way to comport yourself. You know? So when you talk about peer pressure, you're right. It's like, oh, like in school. You know, now, I remember when I was in school, people were talking about peer pressure. It was like, oh, these 5 or 6 people, it's not the entire school, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? 2 years, you're not even going to be thinking about those people. Well, it's not like that anymore. It's not like that anymore. So I cannot imagine being a 14, 15-year-old kid dealing with that shit. Holy moly. It's one of the reasons I'm glad our kids are homeschooled, man. Because that type of environment, to expect these kids to be able to navigate that type of environment safely, I just think is a really big ask. And I think it's a very, 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 very dangerous situation that a lot of these kids are in.
I would agree with that.
And this shit doesn't last very long anyway. I better watch out, because I have a gun and I don't even know if it's even loaded. What's the point of no one's watching if this shit doesn't last very long anyway? Kind of like a nihilistic way of looking at life, I think. What do you think he means when he says he's got a gun but he doesn't even know it?
It's so interesting. Okay, I think it's like when you kind of like, to me it was when you know that there's something that could kill you that is there, but you almost don't focus so much on it because you're not really trying to kill yourself, but yet at the same time, like, it is kind of there, and it's kind of like whispering to you, I guess you could say. And then when he said, what's the point when no one's watching, I guess you could look at that 2 ways. You could say he's saying that he's come to the end, and the whole gun thing is in his mind because there's no point, like, nobody's, or you could say because nobody's watching, that's why it was bringing him to that point. Or you could say he was going to kill himself, but there's no one there to watch, So what's the point in doing it? Like, but either way, it seems to me like a cry to be heard.
Yeah. It's almost a generational thing.
So when he says "in the shit doesn't last very long,"
I think it's if. I think that's an error. If the shit doesn't last very long, anyway.
Oh.
I better watch out because I have a gun. Yeah, I think you're right. I long for the will to repay. He says everything is shit. I never
even saw that.
He says everything is shit, covered in shit. I long for the will to repay.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get vengeance on his enemies. Yeah.
Well, again, if you look at it as him wanting to be seen or him wanting to be heard, and he's talking about suicide, then it could be that that's his way of getting for them to repay. Is when he kills himself, they're gonna pay. Or they didn't hear him.
Or he's gonna. This is like one of these school shooter things, right?
Yep.
Where they go out and they take out everybody else along with them.
Well, he said seeing human needs as feces.
Yeah.
So that was a sort of.
Yeah. It's tough stuff. I just feel, I've got a teenage. We've got a teenage son. I got a teenage girl, and we had to sit down and have a hard conversation today. I could just imagine him in school. And the thing is, I don't believe he would I don't think he would be bullied necessarily, just because of how attractive he is and whatever.
No, so.
But I think he could wreak a lot of destruction because he's got so much pain as far as what he's dealing with certain situations in his life that, it would be hellish for people in that school. His little brother would get picked on a lot. It's just it's very, very hard for kids.
I feel like he'd get picked on, but I feel like he'd find one or two true friends.
Oh, of course, they always do. It's just I just feel really bad for kids in school now, just because. Honestly,
I feel bad for parents too.
I don't know how they make it.
Like that the financial situation, and like when I was reading about what has happened, about how like women decided they wanted to work, and so when a bunch of women went into the workforce, then it all of a sudden drove, like when you have a bunch of workers, it drives the amount of pay down, it goes down. Yeah. And so now it requires that two parents work from the house to maintain just a normal lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's parents that would love to be able to keep their kids home and not put them in school, but they don't have the choice because of, the cost of living.
Yeah. Yeah, it's America is like one of the most affluent countries in the history of the world. I get all that, man, but it just shows money does not solve all of your problems. We got a lot of people really, really hurt, man. And people are talking about Jordan Peterson, things like that. I'm damn near certain Jordan Peterson has probably stopped about 10 active shooters.
Oh, 100%.
Because the people that guy appeals to are people with this type of mentality.
He says, "Let me grab a machine and make it real."
Yeah. Melt its plastic down, which is probably talking about fake people, humanity,
whatever.
That's
what I was thinking too. The fakeness. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the name of the song is called "Plastic Bath," which is another way to say bloodbath, right? So, yeah, I just think that I really feel like Jordan Peterson has given that specific demographic of disaffected young males, and I call them secularist refugees, or postmodern refugees. Like, you told these kids that all they are is this and that and whatever, and you told them the sky's empty and all that, and you just left them to deal with the ramifications by themselves. Oh, and by the way, here's the internet. Okay, and you're gonna reap the whirlwind when you do that. And then Jordan Peterson shows up and goes, well, this isn't working. So let's look over here. And obviously Jordan's he's evolving himself, before our eyes. But I just think that ever since I read Catcher in the Rye, I've had and you're like this too. Like, you had this real love for that 15, 16-year-old boy, and that's been a real thing for me, man. Like, I haven't really completely explored it yet because the pain is so big for these guys that, like it's hard to, think what these kids are going through without a lot of direction and without a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be a father, and like I can't stand having 18 trillion conversations about the same thing over and over and over again. We had an agenda yesterday and the whole thing got blown up because we had to have like 5 different talks with the kids and things like that. But I'm like, imagine if they didn't have us to have those conversations. And there's so many
the other
kids
thing
that don't.
too is that a lot of times kids don't feel like they can talk to their parents.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was thinking yesterday. I was like,
it's true.
You were having that hard discussion, and then one of the kids was emotionally like hurt by the information that they heard because they didn't realize how the world can be, and so she went off crying because she was sad about it. It was hard to hear, and like I followed her, but I wasn't sure, like what she was gonna say. You know what I mean? Like when you follow your kid, there's a risk that they're gonna say, "Get out of here! I don't want to talk to you." And like for me, that made me really sad.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna tell them that because I want them to be able to say, that if they don't want to talk to me, So I followed her and I was like, I called her. I was like, "Where are you? Can I come in?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then I just started hugging her and she was crying and stuff. And she was like, "I'm very glad you came in with me." So it was really special to me that I was thinking that, I think that kids are forced to grow up in a lot of different situations. And so it's not cool to have your parents, like, they're not going to cry on your parent's shoulder when you're 13 or 15 years old. But it's cool that we have that sort of environment. And, sometimes I think, like, if you guys saw where we lived a very small apartment and there's a lot of us. But I think, we're not always going to live in this place. But I think that we're going to look back and there's going to be a little sweetness about it because we are all piled here together, and so I think that there's that some people, they don't get that with their kids. And when their kids are in school, their kids make friends and talk to the teachers and talk to their other friends. And that's where they get all their information and that's who feeds into them. And you don't even know what your kid is learning. You can barely ask them. Like I see the other kids, the parents will say, "What'd you learn?" "Oh, yeah, nothing really."
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to their parents about it. So I'm really glad that our kids are, they talk to us and we're able to kind of hear what's going on with them.
Jules says, "My daughter's 5. I can't comprehend taking care of her myself." Yeah. I mean, I have no idea how my mom did it. Acid Bath says, I always keep my pain inside. I don't really feel comfortable talking to my parents about my problems. Yeah, man,
And it really depends on the parent.
It depends on the parent. That really, that really speaks to it right there. You get a lot of, and it doesn't mean the parents are bad parents,
No, it just means like some people are not good with that. Some people don't know. Some people get awkward. They feel uncomfortable. The parents would rather pretend the kids don't have an issue. I mean, I was telling this one kid, talk to your
sometimes parents don't know what's going on with their kids. And even if the parent doesn't know how exactly to help the kid, just even attempt is enough for the kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so yeah, I don't know where Acid is with that whole situation, but
I'll tell you what.
a lot of the times that I was playing my music and all that shit, I was talking.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my parents. So Acid Bath, one of the things that you may want to do if you have an open-minded parent is
if you have an open-minded parent.
Yeah. Playing some of your music and sitting down and talking to them about it. And on the other side, if you're a parent and you've got a kid and you can't really figure them out, easiest way to deal with that is go to your kids and say, tell me your favorite song.
Yeah.
And just tell them. No judgments.
Mm-hmm.
You give them 30 minutes. If you're one of these people, don't swear type of people, that's okay. And then just tell them, okay, In the next 30 minutes, you can say whatever you want. You can swear. You can do whatever. Right?
Sometimes the kids will be like that. They'll be like, Mom, can I just say this? Can I just say this how I want to say it? I'm like, go ahead. And then they'll like curse in their sentence.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I just think that's a little hack that I use. You go for a ride and say, okay, we're gonna play your favorite song and tell me about it, and it works like a charm all the time. So acid bath, there you go, buddy. That's some advice. See how it works out. Much love to you. What do you get the song?
Oh boy, I feel like I'm rating everything super high lately. It's a 9.6 for me.
It's a solid 8.8 for me. Much love to the homie Jules. Much love to the homie Jaden. Much love to the homie Acid Bath. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.
Villagers, the NCAA college basketball tournament is right around the corner. We're doing a March Madness contest for our village to raise funds for other villagers in need. It only costs $1 to participate, and you'll have the option, if you want to donate a little extra. The way it works is you go to ESPN.com and fill out a bracket with the teams that you think are likely to win each game. Whoever wins our contest will get to pick a song for Vin and Sori to react to. So that song you've always wanted them to do, you can now get it done for as little as $1 if you win the contest. There will be a link in the description to this website that will take you to a PayPal site. From there, you make your donation and you'll get an email back with instructions on where to join the group and the password so that you can join. Now, if you're asking, I'm not a big college basketball junkie, I don't know what's going to happen, that's okay. There's all kinds of information on the website that will show you what the experts are predicting, statistics on each team, and even trends as far as what everybody else is voting on. So you'll fill out your bracket. You can start doing that on March 14th, and you'll have until the games begin on the 19th to complete your bracket. You can join the group at any time, but those are the dates that you can actually fill your bracket out. If you have any questions, send those to vinandsorimarchmadness@gmail.com, and I look forward to seeing you guys there.